Look at that. It's 9 o'clock. It's time to get started. Just like that. All right, so this is our script from last week. Um, we started out, we did the QB target, and then last week we made the target do something, and we created a cool little repo mission with Mod, so you could go sign the document, and she would have you go steal vehicles. So currently where we're at, you can grab the vehicles, and you can bring them to the drop-off location, and you can get paid. So as always, this week we're going to add some additional features onto that. And the first place to start is going to be in the config file. So last week, the last thing we did was we had our marker for draw distance and stuff. I don't think we used everything that's in here whenever we did the. This is the formatting stuff that we needed for our little come closer and press E to return the vehicle. And so this week we're going to spawn some car owners, and so we're going to call this going to just add a lesson 3 on our config file, so we know this is where we're starting here. We need some models, and so I picked just some random models off of FiveM natives. It's easy to find the names of the models. I don't think I'm going to walk you through that, but the FiveM natives that we are always talking about, if you go to developer resources, there's a ped button there. You click that and it shows you all the ped models and it gives you their names. So I just picked a few random peds that would look like they might get upset if you stole their car. The next config section that we're going to add, I'm going to go through this in a little more depth, is going to be the car owner combat. So what I do when I'm spawning in peds that are going to be angry, I have a pretty standard set of things that I use for their combat attributes. So anytime you're wanting to spawn a hostile ped, you're going to want to give them some different combat attributes. There's a whole list of them, and we'll go look at them real quick. We will go look at that. Let me get my FiveM natives open. And we're going to go to combat attributes. Set ped combat attributes, and there's a whole list here. You can read through. I mean, there's a lot of them. Some of these are relevant to vehicle combat, like down towards the bottom you have aircraft combat stuff. You've got dogfighting where they can chase and shoot. A lot of cool stuff here. The ones that we're using specifically, I'll run through those real quick. So we're using, I've put the comment here. So if you read through the list, you'll find these. I've turned off 46 because I did that when I was working on this and I was to the later stage that we talked about, but we're going to turn it back on right now. So 46, always fight, is one of the ways that you make the ped always hostile when he sees people, but it doesn't necessarily work just by itself. But we're going to use cover. It's not necessary for what we're doing right now, but if you're ever making a ped that will be getting in shootouts and stuff, you want to be able to use cover. If you want to make peds that can chase the player even if they get in a vehicle, you want to do the can use vehicles, can do drive-bys, can leave vehicle, can fight. This is a very important one. Can fight armed peds when not armed. If you don't turn on this number 5 attribute and you pull a gun on an aggressive ped, they'll run away. They won't fight you. But if you turn that one on, they don't care if you got a gun or not. They'll still fight you. And I think can taunt in vehicle. These are just some of the standard ones that I use always, and we're going to use those tonight. For combat movement, this is a set ped. I think it's combat movement. Yeah, there it is, right there. So there's 3 different ones. There's a stationary, defensive, offensive, and suicidal offensive. Suicidal, they won't try to take cover or anything. They'll try to flank the enemy, and they'll just basically keep coming at you. We're going to go with just standard offensive because we're going to be doing some fist fighting, some melee action. If you do stationary, they'll just... Hold on a second. We didn't set ped combat movement whenever we were doing the house robbery, did we, Devect? Maybe we
What
should
was that,
try to...
sorry?
when we were trying to get the house ped to attack and not just stand in one place, we didn't set. Maybe we should try to set it to offensive or maybe even suicidal so that he doesn't care about mapping.
I had tried that.
You tried that?
Yep.
Okay, never mind then. Okay, so here, just a quick comment on what me and Dvec were just talking about. So we have a house robbery script in the server, and it's got a ped in there that will attack you, but the ped won't move. And there's nothing we can do about that because it's an MLO that's under the map and it doesn't have a nav mesh built into it. If you ever are spawning a ped and it's not doing anything that you want it to do and you're inside an MLO, the issue is that you don't have a nav mesh. And the only way to fix that is to learn how to use CodeWalker and to implement a nav mesh inside of your MLO. I have absolutely no idea how to do that, and I have absolutely no interest in learning how to do that. So our ped just kind of stands in place, and since he couldn't move, we gave him a taser. So now he can tase you even if he can't move from his locked position. That's how we solved that problem. Anyway, that was just a little extra commentary on that. Combat range, that's going to set how far apart, how far away the ped will start to shoot or whatever. And this time we're just doing hand-to-hand combat, so I set it for up for just 2. Let me see what else there. I think I'm pretty sure that might not be a whole number. I might have it messed up right now. Set. Let's do combat range. Set ped combat range. Oh no, it can be anything. 7 to 30 meters. It doesn't look like it's a float. It's just an integer, so you wouldn't want to use a float at all. That's basically going to be how many meters away they will attack. So we're going to do 2 meters away is where they can throw a punch from. If you had a rifle and you didn't want them to shoot across the map, you can set the distances different. So this seems like this would be 0, 1, and 2. So never mind. We're at 15 to 40 meters. So let's dial it down. We'll just do it to 0. So that was actually wrong. So we were going to fix it together. 0. And if it doesn't work, I'll come back and change it back to 2. Combat fire rate. We're not going to give them a gun tonight, but I just put in the combat fire rates that are available, just in case sometimes I use those. And I'm going to make this ped group called car owners. So this is the config I'm going to use to set my hostile peds combat attributes. Now, one other thing that I got to do is I'm going to want to tie that pedestrian into our vehicle spawn cords. So what I did is I went into the server and give me 1 second here to adjust this so I can copy and paste it over properly. So I went into the server and I grabbed some cords, and what I'm wanting is I want the ped to be tied to the cords. Oh shit. What's going on? We got too many commas. We got too many curlies. There we go. So basically, based on which vehicle spawn cord I pick, I've got a car owner cord that's near that spawn cord for the vehicle that makes sense. And so I'm putting it into this config because whenever I do my random selection of the location, I want to go ahead and assign my variables for my car owner so that I can spawn the car owner close to where the vehicle is going to be. And we're going to add a little note at the top of this config for anybody that's actually downloading the files and doing the lessons. We're going to call this lesson 3 add-on for those cords. And that's all we need. So we got our cords where we're going to spawn the ped. We've got some ped models. We've got some combat attributes ready to pull from our, so that we don't have to type in these hashes and stuff. We can just reference our config file, and we're going to go get started. So let's go to the client Lua. That's usually the first place that you start. And I have to look through here because I know I made notes for myself. I've already written all this code just because I don't want to come in here and have to do troubleshooting and stuff, because generally speaking, anytime you write some new code, you're going to make a couple of mistakes and you're going to have to troubleshoot them. And I don't want you guys to have to suffer through that with me. So I write the code beforehand. So we're going to add another global variable for lesson 3. It's not a global variable, but it's a local script variable because we're putting it outside of the functions. And so all of the functions on this sheet, as we've discussed before, will be able to use this variable. And it's going to be our car spawn coords, and it's going to be just a vector 4 with zeros. We'll assign it whenever we pick our car spawn. And I don't remember why we did that, but we'll figure it out. We're in it together, so I know I used it somewhere. Okay, so then in our accepted contract that we wrote last week, this one here. So in accepted contract, this is where we picked our random spawn coord for our vehicle. So this is where we set our car spawn coords before. So tonight we're going to do this a little different. So we're going to set up a new variable called the new variable is going to be called selected, and it's going to be equal to math.random, and it's basically math.random. If you don't recall, that's how you select a random number between two numbers. So I could put 1 and 100 here, and it's going to pick a random number between 1 and 100, including 1 and 100. In this case, we're going to do the same thing that we did here, because this is basically we're picking this spawn coord. But since I want to get my car owner's spawn coords, I need to know what these coords are. So I'm going to use selected. Selected is going to be the index. So right here where we do this math random, that's picking a random number between 1 and 5, I believe. Yeah, it's picking a random number between 1 and 5. And so if I set this up so that selected equals that random, and we're going 1 to config number of vehicle spawn coords, we're basically selecting an index. So we're selecting 1 through 5, but whenever we reference it later, it's basically going to be our index of which table that we want to grab from. Hopefully that's clear. And then we're going to put a little note here to let everybody know this was a lesson 3 add-on. This wasn't from the previous lesson. And then, so we want to take selected, and selected is now our math random. Instead of all this, we're just going to put selected. So we select a number between 1 and 5, and we're using it here. You'll notice these 3 little underlines. That's because I want the car spawn coord to now be local to the entire script on this page. So we are going to delete this local because we're reassigning it from vector 4000 to whatever the answer is to our math random selection here. And this is a lesson 3 modification. And then we're going to add a new event right here. So we're going to, oops, there we go. We're going to trigger an event, and we're going to call it, I'm just going to copy the name here. We're going to call it Keisui Dev Training Repo Mission Active is the name we give it. And so we got Keisui Dev Training Repo Mission Active. It's going to be a client function. That's why we didn't write, that's why it's just trigger event, because we're in the client script. And we're going to pass a variable selected. And so selected is going to be this random number that we picked, 1 through 5. And so we're going to pass that over to this function because that's going to be the function where we're going to spawn our hostile ped. And this is an add-on line of code, all right? And then we want to do one more thing in this our previous accepted contract script or function. And we're going to put it after does entity exist repo vehicle. Make sure that's right. Line 121. I don't know why it's not the same. Well, not does entity. Oh, okay. And one thing I forgot to do for you guys last week, we forgot to do a very important step after we created this vehicle. No, we didn't. It's there. Why is that at 1? I'm missing something because it's at 118. Let me make sure I didn't forget to add something above. Lesson 2. It's fine. We'll figure it out if it doesn't work. Anyway, I was thinking I'd forgot to add something here that I discovered when I went back, but it doesn't look like it. We got the repo ID. Yeah, so right here, we're going to trigger a new event called Okay, SUI dev training client set repo vehicle for car owner. So this is we'll explain this function when we write it. But the number that we want to pass over here is the repo vehicle. So basically, this is going to be an event that we'll use the repo vehicle that we created, and that's how we're gonna use this to help the car owner know what car that he's watching for someone to break into. That's going to be the one he's trying to protect. So I'm actually going to write all three methods now that we had talked about before, but I'm not going to put those in until and then we're just going to turn them off and see how it changes later when we do that. And I lied to you guys. I was going to show you how. Actually, never mind. We'll see in a minute. Disregard. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, and we don't need the repo ID, but it's there anyway. That's fine. Just making sure I haven't missed any modifications. We're good there. Okay. So once we spawn the repo vehicle, we're going to trigger another function. We're going to send that data over. So check vehicle. Everything else stays the same from last week. Here is something that I forgot to do. This is what I forgot to do last week that I thought was above. So on our deliver vehicle function that we lost last week, whenever we reset everything, there's one thing we forgot to reset, and that is, this is all different. Drop off vehicle, deliver vehicle. Is control just released? Trigger event, reset timer. Oh, I forgot. Last week I didn't add this into the lesson that I loaded up. Last week you'll remember we had a bonus question that was asked by I think it was Kirby, and so we added a timer, and we had edited everything in this section to look like this, minus that part. So this is what it looked like last week whenever we were done after the class. But one thing we forgot to do was to set repo active back to false. So whenever we did our modifications last week, somehow I had ended up deleting this one, and so whenever I was testing when I was testing lesson 3, since this was not set to false, you can still hear me, Lemon. You have to chime in every now and then just to make sure my mic doesn't go off. No.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
good. You're
okay.
good. You're
All right.
good. You've been good.
All right. I'm gonna try to listen for it to shut off, but anyway, if we don't do this repo active equals false, then it never reset the script, and so you can only deliver one car, and then mod would never give you another opportunity until the timer expires. Oh, that's why, because we set the repo active false here in the timer. That's what we did. Okay. So we don't necessarily need this. I am going to use this for now, though, because when we're testing the script, I don't want to wait 10 minutes to show you the next iteration, and we'll just delete it at the end. So I just overcomplicated this because we did it right last week, but I didn't think we had done it right because when I was testing, I delivered one vehicle, couldn't deliver the next, and I was like, what the hell? And I was like, oh, I forgot repo active, but I had forgotten we did this part. So anyway, okay, so we're done in our client script for last week with some changes that we need to make. We added in these functions that we're going to trigger, but rather than continuing to just make this file super long and adding in our new functions here, I'm going to add a new script. So we're going to add a new file, and we're going to call it lesson3.lua. Did I do it? Oh, wait, I clicked out on my screen. Here we go. New file, lesson3.lua is the new one that we're going to do. Step 1 is what? Step 1 is to copy your local QB core equals exports and put it at the top. That's always number 1. All right, so we did that. All right. So we're gonna need several variables. The first two are hash groups. So whenever we make the ped so he's hostile always, we don't have to do this for this script, but I said I was going to show you how to do it as an example. You're going to use you have to have hash groups. These hash groups, I don't remember where I found them. You'd have to search for GTA 5M hash groups. This is the Merriweather hash group, and this is all the players hash group. So whenever you assign a ped to the play to this hash group, um, it's going to be either allied. It's going to be allied with all players. So if you want to create some companions to like companion dogs, for example, to follow players around, you're going to assign them to this hash group because that is for players. I always use this Merriweather hash group because those are combative peds. So I just use that one anytime I'm making a hostile ped, no matter if they're a Merriweather guard or not. I assign them to that hash group because it tells them that they're an aggressive ped. You know, you've got some peds that are kind of gangsterish, and then there's some peds that wander around that are scared of everything. And depending on which hash group you assign them to, kind of affects some of their behavior in game. So we're going to use the Merriweather ones because they're hostile. Relationship hash 5, that is aggressive, and you find that in your I think it's set ped relationship group hash. That's where you set your hash at. And relationship, I think it's between groups. Yeah, set relationship between groups. So here's the ones that you can pick. So if you do 0, then it's going to be a companion that kind of walks around with you. If you do the respect, it's going to be companions that say nice things to you and whatever. If you do like, they're going to have different reactions to you, or they're going to be like, hey man, what's up, or whatever. Neutral, they don't really care. Dislike, they'll say mean things to you whenever they see you. And then hate, they'll fight with you. And so that's what we want. We want them to hate us. And so we're going to use relationship type 5. Basically, these just kind of set up the PEDs that you create, kind of gives them their dialogue and how they're going to interact with the player when they see them. We're going to set repo mission active false because we're going to use this as a trigger to turn on and turn off different things that happen. Our watch cords are going to be 0 until we select the car, and that's when we're going to determine where our watch cords are going to be. And then we're going to have car owner cords. That's going to be a vector 0 until we assign it. We don't have a car owner yet. We don't have a repo vehicle yet. We're going to assign those values whenever we do the functions that they're going to be in. So our first function is going to be called repo mission active, and we triggered that. That's one of the new ones that we added in. Let's see, repo mission active. It's the first one we added in right here on our first client script. So that's going to trigger this function here, and we passed it. We passed over car selected. Even if you're going between, scripts that are on the same both inside the client folder, you can still pass variables. And even if you're going from a script that's within the same page, you still can pass variables the same way with a comma, and then you put in the variable that you want to pass. So we're passing over selected, and we're going to change its name. It's called selected here, but when it comes to here, we can call it whatever we want. We can call it X, we can call it variable, we can call it data, anything we want. It doesn't have to have the same name because this is just a variable. But it'll have the same value as whatever we sent over. So we're going to throw in a debug just to make sure that this function launches while we're testing. We're going to set our repo mission active to true because we are now active, and we're going to have some things that we want to check and make sure if it's active or not before they happen. We're setting our watch cord, so since we sent the car selected, we're able to know where the vehicle spawn cords are, just like we did whenever we spawned the car and we set its cords here. We're telling the computer that it's going to watch those cords now. We're going to set the car owner cords, and that's why we passed this variable over, is so we would know where to spawn the car owner relative. So that's going to be the same index for both of those, and so that's how we're going to grab our car owner cords to make sure they're paired up with the actual vehicle that spawned. We're going to throw in a couple of debugs here just to make sure that we got some data. We have watch cords and car owner cords just for troubleshooting. You can take all these debugs out when you're done with your script. I always like to throw them in while I'm writing the script just so I don't have to come back and do it later when I'm troubleshooting. If everything goes well, your first run through, you just come back and delete them all. And then after so now what we've done is we've assigned these two positions. So we now have watch chords and we now have car owner chords that we assigned right here. And so we're going to trigger another event. We could do it here inside this function, but sometimes I like to break things up a little bit so that we don't get we don't end up having really long functions. We can break them into segments. It's a little easier to troubleshoot later. And this is going to be, this time is going to be car owner method one. Car owner method one. Okay. All right, so this is where we're going to spawn our car owner and give him things to do. All right, so we're going to do a debug just to make sure it triggers this. Again, the debug's not necessary, it's just for troubleshooting. We're going to pick a model, and we're going to do it the same method that we did last time, where we used the math.random 1 through the car owner ped models. So that's 1 to 5 again. I think I've been just picking 5 every time. Where's our models? Here they are. So 1 to 5, it's going to randomly pick one of these models. And then just like whenever you spawn a vehicle, you have to get the hash key for your model because we entered it as a name, as a text string. So we have to convert that to a hash key. And then we're going to request the model. And then we're going to wait for that model to load. This is the same way we did the car last week, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. And then we're going to create our ped. And we're going to assign him as car owner. We had car owner equals nil up here, and so now we're assigning car owner to an actual spawned ped. And this is in the natives. We'll go look at it. We'll go walk through it. I was gonna just skip it, but it's okay. You can still hear me?
Yep, you're
Loud
good.
and clear.
Okay.
You're still good.
So in create ped, here's all of our variables that we need. So we've got our ped type, and they get. I don't know what this means, but I know that I think that basically what they're saying is this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you assign here. It's either going to be a male or a female based on the ped type that you chose. But the number that I know works is 4, and so I always just use 4 there. And I recommend you do the same. I think if you use an animal, you have to use 5, if I remember correctly. If you're doing an animal ped, um, that's the only time you change it. If you're doing any sort of character ped, it's a 4. If you're doing an animal ped, I think you have to change that number in order for them to be able to attack and do all of their other animations. They'll still spawn in and walk around and whatever if you tell them to, but to get some of their attack stuff and some of their other special features that the animal peds do, you have to set that to I think it's 5, but you'd have to look, you'd have to search somewhere and have somebody tell you. Because see right here it says it creates a biped character. Well, you can create a quadped character also if you put in a different number. Anyway, so the model hash, we got our hash key just a minute ago. You got our XYZ coordinates. The fourth coordinate is your heading, and it's going to be 0 is north, and 180 is south, and 90 is east, and 270, I think that's right, is going to be west. Is network. If you say true here, then everybody on the server will see the same ped. If you say false here, then it's going to be an invisible ped for everyone except for the person that is who spawned the ped, like whose client is controlling it. So for this case, we want it to be true because we want everybody to see the ped. It's not a ped just for them. You'll remember whenever we did mod, we made her false. She is the local ped, and the reason why is because she doesn't do anything. And so we wanted her to be separate on each individual client. We didn't want her to be hosted on the server. Um, and I explained that in the tutorial. But for today's lesson, we want that to be true. And we want this to be true also because this means if the ped is registered and pinned to the script host, that means that the ped won't despawn. If you have this set to false and you spawn the ped and you're on the other side of the map, there's a possibility that there's a possibility that the ped will despawn before you get over to where it's at. and so you want it to be true for this one. And I'm 95% certain that what I just told you is also true, but I could be wrong. But I know if I don't set that to true, sometimes my peds disappear. So we're going to set it to true because we don't want him to go away until he's dead. We're going to throw in some debugs here to make sure that we have our watch cords populated, our car owner cords populated, and to make sure that we actually spawned a car owner. This one will return the car owner's entity ID after he's created. And you know what? We're not going to do it there. We're going to do it after we wait for it to for sure exist. That way we don't have any, if it tries to run this line right after that line and the ped hasn't actually been created yet, it may give us an error message or it'll say nil. We want to make sure that it's loaded and so that we get a return of the value. All right, and so then we're going to do a loop. We're going to do a for kv in pairs config car owner combat attributes. So what is this doing? Well, we set our ped combat attributes in this config file. So we have these combat attributes that we want to assign to him. Rather than entering set ped combat attributes 0, set ped combat attributes car owner, uh, uh, 0 and true, and then whatever and true and whatever and true. I'm doing a loop. And what this loop is doing is I only have one variable here. So all that I have is an index. So I don't have to use my v at all, but you have to have kv in order to run the loop. But k is my index. V is nil because there's nothing in the table. We just have an index value. So whenever I run this loop, this for kv loop, and I put out a little short bonus lesson on how loops work. After I watched it back, I was like, this is kind of confusing, but if you pause it, if you listen to what I say, pause it and look at it, you can figure it out. I just wanted it to be short. I didn't want it to be too crazy. Unlike this, we're already 30 minutes in and we haven't really accomplished anything. Anywho, so rather than having to do set ped combat attributes, the car owner, instead of having to enter this, what was it, 7 times? 7 times. We just have to do this loop. And each time it goes through the loop, it's assigning the variable k, which is the index. And so that will set all of our combat ped attributes. This is for the example of how to make the ped always hostile. And so you want to set your ped relationship group car owner and MW hash group. MW hash group, you will recall, was this hash group that's specific to Merriweather to make them hostile. We're going to set his combat ability to 100. We're setting his combat movement to offensive. We're giving him a weapon unarmed, but we can put any weapon we want in here. But we want to make sure I'm giving him the weapon unarmed just so he knows he can use his hands, essentially. It is possible sometimes, depending on the ped, if you don't give them the weapon unarmed, they're not combat peds, they won't fight. But if you can take pretty much any ped and give them a weapon unarmed, and then they know how to fight. We're gonna say he can switch his weapon, true, because if we give him a weapon, we want him to be able to switch between weapons if he runs out of ammo or something. And again, we're not giving him a weapon right now. We're just doing this for demonstrative purposes. And then I want this character to be hostile anytime he sees the thief for this example where we're showing how to set up a ped to always be hostile. And so I'm going to give him the task to guard current position. And 15 and 15, that's basically the radius where he's going to be able to, he's going to be aggressive if you get within 15 meters of this guy. That's basically what we're setting up there. And true means that he's going to be guarding a position. Then we have to assign the we have to set up, so we had signed the player hash group. You don't have to assign the player to the player hash group because this automatically includes all players. So we want to set the ped relationship between the MW hash and the player hash as aggressive, and that's from our config file. So our config file for our, where was it? It was here somewhere. I know because we talked about it. It was 5, 5, 5. Or, no, it wasn't. It was at the top. Sorry. I didn't put that in the config. It's right here. Relationship hash is 5. So 5 and 5, that means that they're hostile, but you have to do it both ways. So you have to make the Merryweather group hostile towards the player, and make the player hostile towards the Merryweather group. It's not necessarily as important for the players, but this is a good practice. If you ever make two sets of Peds that you want to fight for some sort of interesting um, storyline or something, you have to set them to hate each other. So you have to do both. I'm going to turn my headset off and back on real quick because I'm paranoid it's going to shut off. So give me 1 second. All right, I turned it back on. Hopefully it hadn't shut off. I'm not
Nope,
sure.
you've been good the whole time.
Okay. I just get paranoid because I know it shuts off sometimes. So, and then I want them to stand there and be like messing around on their phone. And so this is how you start like an animation on the ped. So I'm just giving him a task start scenario in place, the car owner, and the scenario that I want him to do is world human stand mobile. If you search FiveM for various scenarios, if you just search like FiveM default scenarios or something like that, you'll get a whole list of these. There's like the cough one, sneeze, greeting, hello, angry, whatever. There's a whole bunch of them. So we're just gonna have him stand there and mess around on his phone. Um, and then after we've created our ped now, we've given him all of his combat attributes. We've told him that he hates the player, and we've put him in the server near the car. And now we're going to trigger another event, and we're going to have him. It's going to be watch method 2. We don't need that yet, but we're going to go ahead and write it. So let's do watch method 2. So we'll end up turning this off before we test. So I'm going to go ahead and comment it out right now so I don't forget. Oops. And then whenever we start doing our testing, I'll come back, I'll turn off a few of these things and I'll turn this thing on and then we'll use this method. But we can go ahead, you can write a function as long as you don't trigger it, it's not going to do anything. So we'll go ahead and write our function. So basically how this function works is we want to check, the first thing we're going to do is check and make sure that the mission is active. And so we're definitely going to want to set the mission active to true before we trigger this function. So if we look at where this function is, it's right here. Um, we want to look back and see, what was it, mission active, repo mission active, control F. So here it is right here. The first thing we did whenever we triggered this sheet from the first client that we wrote is we set that to true. And so whenever this function is triggered after we went through all of this code, it's going to say while the repo mission is active, the repo mission is active because we've started it. Then it's going to start running this loop, and it's going to wait every 100 milliseconds. It's going to run the loop. We're going to get the player ped ID. That's what this player ped ID. This is just basically returning your ID, your lucky number from the server. That's your source. That's what's being returned here, basically. Um, the player vehicle is you're going to get the vehicle the player is in, and if the player vehicle is the repo vehicle, which means you got into it, and we've already done this method. We did it when we were deleting our blips and moving the blips, so you'll be familiar with this if you watched the previous lessons. If they're inside the repo vehicle, then we're going to do a debug just saying he's inside the repo vehicle. We're going to clear ped tasks immediately for the car owner, which is going to stop him from doing this world human stand mobile. It's going to stop that task, and we're going to tell him to combat the ped. So we don't have to do that for the first example because we've already made the ped hostile. For the example that we're going to do next, whenever we turn this back on, we're going to turn that always hostile stuff off. And so then we're going to command him to attack the player. This is how we command him to attack the player. And I don't remember what these numbers are, but I guess we can go look. Yeah, it should be 16. So I mean, it just needs to be 16, and it doesn't really matter what it is. You can read all this or whatever. But anyway, I would recommend anytime you're doing the combat ped, these are the numbers you need. You need 0 and 16, and it'll work. And you can do player ped ID like I did here. We could also say do it this way with just player ped because we've already assigned what that variable is. So we'll do it that way because that way is better. That way we're not retyping stuff, even though they're about the same length of a word. But so anyway, once this happens, I don't want to keep running this loop over and over again because it's gonna if you keep running this loop after you've told him to combat, he's gonna start to attack and then he's gonna stop and then he's gonna start to attack and then he's gonna stop because we have this clear ped tasks immediately. So if you keep running this loop and you don't stop the loop whenever this happens, um, you're going to you're just he's gonna stop fighting. And if you put a return here, that's basically gonna exit the while loop. If you put a break here, it just breaks out of this if-then statement. If you put a return, that means that's the end of the that's an end of this loop. We could also say the repo mission active is now false, and that would exit the loop also. Except we don't want to do that because we haven't returned the vehicle yet, and we may want to use that variable for something else. So as soon as we make the ped start combat, we're just going to return and break out of this while loop. So that's what that is. That's pretty straightforward. All right, so there's a couple more things we have to do here. As you'll recall, we triggered a couple of events. So we triggered this event. We've already done that one. We also need to do this one, which is set repo vehicle for car owner. This is a very simple one. We're just going to be assigning the repo vehicle entity over here, and so I'm going to throw it in right here. It's just we just passed over the vehicle from here. Repo vehicle is the value, that's the vehicle we created. We're passing that entity number to this lesson, and that's all we're trying to do. We're just setting this variable. That's all we need to do with that one. Let's see. So we got our method one, we got our mission active, we got our set repo vehicle. Whenever the mission's done, we're going to reset the car owner in case they didn't kill the car owner. So if for some reason they never actually fought with the car owner and didn't kill him or anything, we're going to want to set up you always want to set up a function to reset your car owner in case they weren't used during the first run of the mission. So whenever we reset everything over here, at the end of the script, whenever after we've delivered, I added this event, and I didn't mention that earlier. This should also say lesson 3 add. We added this event, which is also going to reset everything on our second page. And so it's going to set repo mission to false. It's going to set the car owner chords and the watch chords to 0, which is what our defaults were. This set ped is no longer needed. That's going to ensure that if they did kill the ped, that he can now despawn whenever people leave because he was assigned to the script model. So he'll just lay there dead basically forever unless we release him. And so set ped is no longer needed, the car owner, that's going to release him. So two things will happen. If he's dead, he'll be able to despawn whenever there's no players around. If he's still alive, he'll stop playing with his phone. Like say we never broke into the vehicle or something, which wouldn't happen in this particular script. But whatever that ped's doing, he's released and he can go. He'll just start wandering around the server. He just goes into a wander mode until he's not near anyone, and then he'll despawn. And then we're going to set car owner and repo vehicle to nil just to reset those values. And I believe that's it for our client side. I don't even know if we have any server stuff. Have we triggered any server events? I don't think so. Watch method 2. Let me check. Did I put anything here? Yeah, we don't need anything in our server. We don't have to change anything in our server at all because this ped's being controlled by this individual script. That's it. It's done. Our ped's ready to go. Should be. We'll go see if I forgot anything. So let's fire this puppy up. So this is a fairly quick quick lesson tonight. We're at 45 minutes so far. Nice. Go fire it up. See how many typos we got. See if we forgot anything. I think I did everything I intended to do. Is everybody with me? How's everybody doing? Learning stuff?
Yep,
All
people are still
right.
here,
All
still
right.
learning.
Fantastic. Shout out to Lemon being my assistant. Appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Got your boss.
That's a little creepy. I'm just kidding, Lemon. You're the best. Oh, let's go ahead and fire up our server console. Local host 4120. Log in. Server log. Oh, live console. There we go. Check, make sure we're still recording. We are recording. That's good news. Oh, what's this? Gang tasks. Stop that. I forgot what it was called. There's another one I want to stop. I think I want to stop Kisui helper just so we don't see those error messages while we're doing this. And we'll stop. There's another one that we get all the time. That's fine. It'll be fine. I was just trying to reduce the error messages that we see so we don't get distracted. So what should happen this time is whenever we get close to the car, we'll be close enough that the ped will see us and he's going to attack. Because he's set up to be always aggressive. We have a hate relationship. We're in two separate groups. I'm in the player group. He's in the ped group, the angry ped group. So he should try to fight us as soon as he sees us.
T-shirt. I've been running around Balenciaga, made my feet hurt. Okay, think I got it. Her fingers filled with polish.
I don't know why the server always takes so long to load whenever I'm doing the class. I think it's because I'm streaming. And so I don't know, maybe the bandwidth or something. I don't know. Because it doesn't ever take me this long when I'm just working by myself. But I'm recording and streaming, so I think I'm using some resources. And usually the first time I log in after I do a fresh restart like this with all my stuff connected, it's a little choppy. It takes a minute to log in all the way. Okay, so we are here. We want to go to the Life Invader and sign up for the contract. And there goes the choppiness. And I still haven't turned my polyzones off, so just we'll do that at some point, but it just makes it easy to figure out where to fly to talk to Mod. So there's Mod. I've got my ink pen in my pocket. So I'm ready to sign my repossession contract. And I guess I'll wander over to it instead of just teleporting there so you can see that the hostile ped gets hostile when he sees me. So let's see, where are we going? Map. So it is to my left. It's right across the street here. Well, let's check the F8. Make sure we don't have any errors. That's from QB management. No big deal. We're not worried about that. We've got all these debugs that happened that we put in. So there's our car owner method 1 launched. There's our chords. That's the first chord. So that's where the car is at. That's the chords where the car owner's at. We have a car owner entity number, and we have our repo blip. So everything is going fine. We don't have any error messages. We're seeing all of our variables. that error that we got there is from a different script, not relevant to what we're doing right now. So I think this is where the car is, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yep, there's the ped. That must be him, yeah? He was pretty tough. But there's the ped, and there's our car. We already know this works. We did it last week. I can't get in because it's oh, it's not locked. Oh, that's good. Anyway, so that's a straight hostile ped. I guess I'll just return this real quick and. God damn it! I'm so shitty at the fucking mini game. All right. No radio. God damn it! I hate the fucking radio. The radio gives me copyright shit too. I don't think I have the streamer mode stuff on. God damn it, come on. Can't you like hit alt or something? Oh, shit. There we go. Okay, I still hear the music. God damn it. There we go. Okay, Jesus. Oh, nice. Good driving. Somehow I got my when I was typing that stuff in, I fucked up my interface, so I got my mouse on my screen now. Anyway, all right, here we go. All right. There we go. All right, so one more time, we'll get attacked by the random ped, and we'll sign up on the. All right. So this time our car is over at the movie studio. It looks like. Am I facing the right way? Yeah. Movie studio. Gotta turn around this way. Yeah, it should be the. Is that it there? Yeah, okay, there's the pet. He's standing against the wall down there. On the left. He's on his phone. You can see he's looking at his phone.
Chicks love motorcycles. Ya lo creo. Tap dance and sell out.
And now he's ready to fight because he sees me. And he's pretty tough. Oh. Oh. Not so tough now. All right, so there we go. So that works. All right, let's fly back over to our mod. All right, and we're gonna log out because we have our on player loaded. Is what starts all of this magic to happen from the beginning. So we're gonna log out because we're getting ready to restart our script. Code. All right, so we want to go to lesson 3, and we're going to turn some things off. We're going to turn this back on, and we're going to turn some of these variables off so that he doesn't attack us as soon as he sees us. So the first thing I'm going to turn off is I'm going to turn off the relationship group because I don't want him to be a Merryweather guy anymore, and that was the wrong button. It's this one. So I'm going to turn off the ped relationship group. I'm going to turn off guard position. I don't want him to guard the position. I don't need any of these relationship groups because I'm going to specifically task him to attack the player. And that's it. So we turned those things off. I'm also going to come back to my config, and I don't want him to always fight. And so I'm going to turn that one off also. I don't want him to fight until I tell him to do task combat ped. And we've turned this function back on, watch method 2, and that's all we gotta do. And now he will not attack us until we are when's he gonna attack us now? He's gonna attack us. Now he's gonna attack us when we get into the vehicle because we've done watch method 2. And watch method 2 is this loop where he's checking to see if our vehicle is the same as the repo vehicle. So this time the ped will attack us when we get in, if everything goes right. We're going to ensure, what is it, Keisui dev training, I believe. Yeah, there we go. And I saved, didn't I? Let me make sure I saved. Looks like I did. Okay, should be good. Alright, so we're going to get our repo job. And I can just TP to the location this time instead of doing all the flying and walking up to it because he's not going to attack me this time. There he is standing there by the trailer. He's not using his phone. Not sure why. Maybe that pet doesn't have a phone. And I'm going to come over here and try to take this vehicle. And it wasn't locked, but I'm in it now, and so here he comes.
Get the fuck out my car!
These guys are pretty tough. Alright. Let me screw this up. Oh, look at that. First try. Nice. Getting some practice. Oh shit, my fucking HUD is screwed up now. Hey, D-Vac, how do I get my HUD back up?
Which HUD, sorry?
The little mini map.
Oh, do slash menu. And then, oh, just reset HUD, reset settings.
Okay.
What would you do to remove your map?
I typed in streamer mode, trying to turn that shit off. Trying to turn the music off, but it didn't work. But my
Oh yeah,
map's
no,
not
that
working
only.
now. Shit. Shit. Where's the fucking show map? Shit. Mini map. I don't know, maybe if I just type in streamer mode again, it'll do the same thing that it did last time.
Streamer mode should just turn off music.
Well, for some reason I was in the menus. Anyway, whatever. Let's just look at where it's at and we'll just fucking teleport there. How's that sound? That'll be easy. Boom, look at that. Deliver, pal. Okay, so that time he attacked us whenever we got into the car. I don't have to demonstrate it again. Everybody saw it happen. So, I want to have him attack me whenever I am using a lockpick. So, I'm going to write another function. It's going to be called client using lockpick, and this is going to be...
Hi, you. Can I do this pitch or what?
This is going to be, we're going to put this in place of
So he's like a totally important.
this,
Andre totally needs to hear the story. Like
we're going to trigger it here where we were triggering to watch if we get in the car. We're going to trigger it there. So whenever, to do the using lockpick, wait, that's not right. That's not what we're going to do. Let's undo that. Where the fuck did I do that at? Hold on a second. fuck. I forgot I had to do this in a different script, so give me 1 second. I gotta find where I trigger this from, because it's not in this script. I had to do it from where you register that you're using the lockpick. I don't remember what script that was in. So basically, what I want to do is whenever the player uses the lockpick, I want to check and see if they are if the repo mission is active, and then it's going to clear ped tasks immediately, and it's going to combat the car owner. So circle. So here's the circle game. This is the lockpick game that we do. And so anytime I had to come put this here because that's something completely separate from my script. And so I went to the lockpick game script and I inserted this event right at the top. So whenever somebody pulls up the lockpick game, it's going to trigger this event. It's going to trigger it every time somebody does the lockpick, whether they're trying to repo the vehicle or not. So every time that they do that, let's turn that off. We'll go back to lesson 3. So every time somebody uses a lockpick, it's going to trigger this function. But I'm going to check and see if the repo mission is active. If it's not active, then the ped's not going to do anything. But if it is active, then the ped is going to attack them. Now there's one problem with this method that we could solve if we wanted to. And that's if the player used the lockpick somewhere else. This ped is going to try to attack them no matter where they're at. So if they go and try to lockpick a vehicle in order to go try to steal this vehicle, that's immediately going to trigger this, and the repo mission is going to be active. If we wanted to take some time here, we could check and make sure that the player was within a certain distance. I mean, well, we could go ahead and do that. I don't feel like writing that. We did a distance check last time, whenever we did the change the marker from come closer to press E to deliver. So we've already done a from distance. So just so you know, this is not the optimal way. You wouldn't want to just take this code and use it for your own script on your own server, because that's a potential problem. Is that no matter where they're at, if they use the lockpick and they've launched the mission, he's going to try to get to them, run to them across the map or whatever. I think that's all I need to say about it. Let's save it. And I don't need to trigger this anymore. Well, I can still trigger that because this happens before this. So if for some reason this function fails, he'll still attack me when I get in the car. Okay. So we're gonna go back to the Life Invader. To mod. Where is she at? The hell? There she is. Alright, and then I have to log out before I restart it because I've got my on player loaded, so I don't want to forget that and then wonder why it's not working. And we want to ensure. Okay, so we dev training, there we go. We'll go back in. Do our contract. Go to the car. Okay, so, last time I can walk around and he's not going to bother me unless I punch him or something. He's just going to stand there texting on his phone. But as soon as I use the lockpick, he's going to attack me. So, we'll watch him. Yep. See, as soon as I started the lockpick, he attacked me. Let's go. Oh. Yeah. All right. So anyway, there you go. That's it. That's all we had on the schedule for tonight. That's 3 different ways to make the ped hostile for this particular script. That was an easy one. We were right at an hour. That's not bad. That's a pretty good lesson. Didn't load you down with too much stuff.